Good morning. April 17th, Sunday. Most of you out there are celebrating Easter Sunday. Easter is only in the Bible one time. It's not one of our holidays. It's one of their holidays. Ishtar. When you read about Easter in the Bible, you see a fellow who's dressed up in I guess he's dressed up in a golden toga. And it was such a beautiful raiment that the public, when they saw him, I don't know if he was in an amphitheater, not an event, or what he was, but they complimented him and said he looked like God. And then you read that the guy fell down dead. And then the people said that's because he failed to praise God and he allowed that praise to lay upon himself, which was wrong. So that's the only mention of Easter in the Bible. We are ordered to celebrate the Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles. Forgive me, I've got a lozenge in my mouth. I take quite a few supplements. This is one that a naturopath physician recommended. I got my little girl. She's beautiful. But you know that saying, bit off more than I could chew? I think I did it this time. I know I told you I was getting a manly dog, a poodle. One of my best friends told me I should get a poodle, a standard poodle, that they are out there retrieving ducks and they're protective and all that. Well, I got me a nice little, she ain't no mutt, but I swear she's got some fox and Tasmanian. There's a cross between a fox and a Tasmanian daredevil in this one. When she's laying down and sleeping, she's great. Problem is she doesn't have a very good master. First time I tried to handle something close to this breed, it didn't go too good. And now I'm remembering some of those efforts. So trainer told me to take her home, hang out for 2 days. And he told me, gave me a lot of advice. And right now I didn't ask many questions. I wished I had, but I think I'm learning kind of the hard way. It's like I'm trying to violate the laws of nature, which, does not work out very well. So I'm going to have to kennel her inside. Forgot I did that with the last one, but that's what I did all right. Oh, we're bonding still. She's sleeping with me. I'm rubbing her all over. She's older and she's supposed to be housebroken. Problem is she doesn't know how to tell me when she wants to go outside. I'm sort of wondering about that housebroken stuff too. I was willing to pay extra for that. Anyway, she's resting and sleeping. Well, she's only 29 pounds right now. She's pretty much an in-your-face kind of a dog. And, they describe this type of an animal as a dog that's on, crack and meth at the same time. That's quite an adage. She's still kind of skittish about me, and I'm a little skittish about her because she has tremendous capacity. Tremendous capability. I'm afraid I might ruin her. I don't like that much. She's going to require me to pull myself up by my bootstraps. Yeah. She already stole my heart, so there can be no failure this time. I just can't, because I spent too much on this animal not to get what I want. I spent a premium. The breeder tells me she's a real dog. She's a solid dog. trainers telling me that she has drive, don't know about heart. I do know this. She likes to eat my carpet. And I think I'm going to have to get a new carpet. Yeah, my last dog had trouble towards the end, so I think I'm going to need a new carpet. I did get my first Bible sale. I only have 999,999 to go to get my first million. This isn't really a money-making enterprise for me, folks. It's not going to be. It's not intended to be. But I would love to have success at it, because if it does, it means I'm a wealthy man for selling a really good product. And it also means that I really will have felt like a success, because it means people are going to be reading this Bible. We are commanded to celebrate the Passover forever, in perpetuity. Why did Yahweh order that? Well, one of the reasons why he ordered that is because he wanted us to be aware that he had planned all this stuff way in advance. Yeah. And the same with the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, what happened during the Feast of Tabernacles? One of two things happened during the Feast of Tabernacles that are very important. They both could have happened on the Feast of Tabernacles, but let's just separate them for a moment. So I'll use the word or, even though it really does not apply. This is not a forced dichotomy. It's not a valid forced dichotomy. Most forced dichotomies are not valid, folks. That's one way to trap a man. You give him a forced choice, neither one of them is very valid. Either which one leads him in the direction you want him to go. So, either Yahshua, who most of you want to call Jesus, was born then, or the three wise men from the east, from the Orient, visited him when he was a toddler and paid homage to him. I think both happened on that feast day. Now, this is a feast day, a high holy day of ancient Israel. And there are others that are ordained as we should be celebrating those. And we should be. Got my first Bible sale. All right. Got my first warning on YouTube. Okay. Still haven't reviewed that video that got me in trouble. I have to do that soon. I really do want to spend a lot more time with my puppy dog. She needs it. She's still not sure about me, although the people that we met yesterday said that she loved me and I loved her. That was real obvious. Well, I saw her first. I know that for sure. And she was a little bit nervous in the cage, getting off the airlines. And it was the last day that they were going to fly dogs into Sky Harbor, because above 85 degrees, they just refused to do it because it's not safe. And we were trying to get her flown in Friday, but she came in Thursday instead because the weather was going to be too hot Friday. I was hoping to get a direct flight for her. I don't think it was a direct flight. I think that she boarded the plane in Baton Rouge and stopped in Dallas. I don't know if they changed planes on her and she had that trauma to go through. It's trauma enough for an adult, but for a puppy dog that doesn't have parents handy or anybody else or handler handy, it's kind of a rough ride. I did get my nutrition in me, but I think I really should follow the trainer's advice and order food in, because she doesn't let me do much with food. I mean, she's got a drive like you wouldn't believe. She's sleeping peacefully, and she's such a joy when she's sleeping peacefully. And I've been getting a lot of face washing whichever way. And I'm just letting her go. I'm letting her taste whatever, smell me, letting her get to know me better. I don't want any failure this time. I need to have success. So some folks are celebrating the Passover as is proper. And of course, the Passover, not only was it the day of the crucifixion, but it was also the day of the Passover in Egypt that finally convinced Pharaoh to let, Moses' people go. Now, a lot of you are thinking that the Jews are the chosen ones. And I thought that for the vast majority of my life as well, but at this point, I think it's a mixed bag. That's the most optimistic I can say. What I can tell you is that Moses wasn't a Jew, that there was no Jewish faith until the Babylonian captivity at the Sunas, because when they came back from Babylon, there was a difference. And that I picked up on my own reading of the Bible. First mention of a Jew is in 2 Kings, I believe. I think it's mentioned twice in there. Well, I don't quite understand that. I think the 2 Kings was written way before the captivity, but also way before the word Jew or the letter J even existed in the English alphabet. We didn't have the letter J in English until the Elizabethan era, or error. So that's when we first had the letter J. That's when we had the Society of Jesus, which formed itself to put forward the name of Jesus. That's what they were dedicated to. Now, why are you going to dedicate yourself to put forward the name of Jesus when that's not really his name? So there's a problem. And if you think I'm going to unravel it for you and give you all the answers, I don't know. I really don't know. I believe that I'm an Israelite. All you folks out there into identity politics, you get to identify the way you want, right? Right? So I got to accept that? Well, then you got to accept I'm an Israelite. Whether it's a fallacy or whether it's the actual fact. Because I identify as that, right? We're all woke, aren't we? Yeah. What I do know is that Moses was a Hebrew. And Hebrew spoke the Hebrew language. That's what they were noted for, kind of classified for. The other thing is that Hebrew is short for Heber. Heber, Heber, which of course we remove that H. We call it Heber. So we're descendants of Heber. Okay, so that takes us back a little ways before Moses. Another word for Hebrew, and this is kind of another word, another definition for Hebrew, and this is slightly remote. In other words, if we were writing a dictionary, we would probably make this a second definition or a third definition after the language classification and after being sons and daughters of Heber. And that was Hebrew was a warrior, a member of the warrior class. So there's the third thing, and that's from Cap. And I can't tell you what his full name is. He's written many books. And I don't know where he gets that from either, but the fellow's written some doggone good books. And I used to think he was Captain something or other. I used to think it was his rank. It turns out Cap was his real name, C-A-P-T. Not the full captain, but Cap. Okay, there's some good literature by that gentleman. There really is. I'm not sure which way to take this. I'm not sure what you really need to know today. I had a talk with a brother of mine yesterday, and it was a good talk. I sent him a video by Eustace Mullins and his. Boy, I got scratched. Oh boy. Yeah. I don't like the way they cut her claws. Wow, that's about 6 inches long. That's easy, 6 inches long. Yeah. Ooh boy. Yeah, right there. He sent me a text message saying that he thought the guy was prejudiced against the Jews. And this is such a sensitive subject that I didn't want to just text him back. I wanted to talk with him. And, the first thing I told him was that he might be offended by what I was going to tell him, but I would answer any questions he might have, and I'd tell him the truth as best I could. I do believe that the faith changed in Babylon. But what I told him is that we're facing a bigger evil than what we ever could imagine. It's beyond our ability to conceive and actually hold the whole thing in our minds. He agrees with me that we're failing to recognize evil, and there is a big evil. And the number one trait that's going on right now is nobody wants to believe in the devil or in evil, and nobody would ever be that bad. And the fact is that all that stuff's going on, and these jackasses in Washington, D.C., want to embroil us in a nuclear war. If they can pull it off, they're going to do it. Okay? You need to know that if they can possibly pull this off, they're going to do it, because they worship their father, who is actually the head guy for destruction of people, maybe even the head guy for destruction of the planet. Remember that saying, the earth groans for her saviors? Yeah. I know a lot of you hate the greenies, and the people who claim they want to save the planet. That's just an excuse. It's like saying if it just saves one child, they want to pass some draconian law. Draconian's the right word too for this stuff. So what we're dealing with an evil that's really big and really vast, and most people don't even believe it exists. But believe me, the people that worship those guys, the traitors that have gone over to that dark side, they believe it. And really, that's all that matters, because they're doing all of this stuff to the rest of us. I'm going to let my mind go from one association to the other association, so I'm not going to report on that conversation that he and I had. But I did give him an account, and I told him that the Ukraine is in the heartland of ancient Khazaria, and that's what was going on over there. And I also told him about the links on my blog. There were 4 links in an 8-paragraph essay, if you will, and it's entitled A Pox Upon Your House. And I also have a follow-up to that, A Pox Upon Your House, Khazaria. You want to go to A Pox Upon Your House, and there'll be 4 links, and you'll spend some hours getting educated, but it's well worth it. It's well worth investing your time that way. I've got some more links that I'm going to be putting up on my blog as well. I haven't got the article yet, but I have about 3. Actually, I've got 4 or 5 links to put up. It's nice that we have YouTube. These great men left interviews and videos on YouTube. Some are on Rumble. It's wonderful that we have those. A lot of those videos were up on YouTube for quite a while, and then they got ejected. Anyway, as I told my friend, Khazaria was in the middle of a bunch of other nations, and the Khazarians wanted to be, the Bulgar, I think was the title for the king, if you will, of Khazaria, wanted his people to be loyal to himself, So he required his nobles to convert to Judaism. Why Judaism? Because he was surrounded by people that if he went to one side or the other side would attack him. This guy was really shrewd. So he didn't want to become Muslim, and he didn't want to become Christian. Why? Or I think it was Catholic, actually. He didn't, because if he became one of those nations, the neighbors on the other side would attack him. And he saw that the Jews were getting along with everybody, and they were merchants, and they were traveling, and, it was good for business. It was good for economics. So that's what he did, is he decided to convert to Judaism. And when that occurred, that was about 700 A.D. Now, Khazaria was a warring nation that loved war. They loved it so much that they had a standing army of 40 million troops. And they hired their troops out to their neighbors, whoever wanted to wage war with somebody else. And the Khazarians marched under a particular banner. There's a name for it. I haven't learned the name. It certainly isn't a fleur-de-lis, but the name kind of reminds you of that. Kind of looks like some swans, if you will, or ornate depictions of swans or wings or something like that. It's probably wings, winged warriors, who knows. These guys really loved war. Another thing I can tell you is they were primarily Turkish-Mongolian stock. So they were kind of a mix. They were Asiatics. And in 700 A.D., when the ruler, the Bulgar, made this decision, the Jews who were at Mount Seir, also known as Mount Edom, decided to go help them convert. So they migrated from Mount Seir in the southern part of Israel up to Khazaria, which we can say, generally speaking, is in the Ukraine. It's on the other side of the Caucasus, the Caucasian Mountains, the Caucasus Mountain Range. On the north side of that mountain range, and it was huge. It was really big at that time. And so these fellows went up from Mount Seir. Now, there was a problem with those people. These were the descendants of Esau, who sold his inheritance for a bowl of red porridge. And as a result, he got named Edom, which is the word for red. And this is a very obvious kind of marker, because that's Esau's marker today. What did Esau do that also caused him grief and trouble and caused his parents grief? He took a Canaanite woman to wife. And when Esau saw how much it upset his parents, he decided to rub their nose in it, and he took a second Canaanite woman to wife. Now, previous to that time, in history and in the Bible, Yahweh says, do not take the daughters of the people of the land for wives for your sons, and do not give your daughters to the people of the land for wives for their sons. In other words, do not intermarry. Now, I know there's a lot of intermarriage going on, and you're going to say it's racist for me to say what I'm going to say, but it has to be said because this is the truth and this is factual. So help me God, right? Well, as much as I can comprehend it, this is what I've ascertained. And Yahweh mentioned it about 5 times. It's what's in the Bible. He issued this warning about 5 times. Do not intermarry with the Canaanites. Why would that be? That's because they were descendants of Cain. And Cain was a hybrid. That's what Pastor liked to describe him as. I think the word Pastor said was Ish, which delineated something different. Now, the word Ish means different things in different parts of the Bible, And as I said, we have to read it in context, and we can't read it in context because we don't live during their days, that era. We don't have their language with the history behind it. We don't have the same culture as what they had. So Esau took Canaanite wives, 2 of them, and apparently had children by them. And then it occurred to him, it dawned on Esau, dawned on Edom, that he had made a mistake and that basically he was no longer in the family because of it. And so he took a daughter of Ishmael as to wife. And apparently she wasn't a hybrid, if you will. She wasn't mixed with fallen angelic DNA, with satanic DNA. So the 3rd wife was okay, but the first 2 weren't. And Esau repented with great tears, but it didn't do him any good. And as we can read in the scriptures later on, God says, Esau, I hated, Jacob I loved. So here's God, and I know you want to say God is love. You know, Yahshua, Jesus is love, pure love, can't hate, can't do it, can't lift a finger to harm a fly, whatever you want to say. Not quite true. It says right in there, God says, Esau I hated, Jacob I loved. So, now you've got the Bible from the garden in which the fallen angel named Gadriel seduced Eve, gave birth to Cain, and Cain's descendants settled in the land of Canaan. And then 700 AD, those inhabitants of the land of Mount Edom, or Mount Seir, went north to help the Khazarians convert to Judaism. They took some of their seed with them, of course, because it was part of their bodies, which means that they blended in with those people up there. They intermixed. Now, here's my supposition, and I'll take responsibility for this. And it may be wrong, but you know how most of us think that Negro DNA is the most dominant DNA. You intermarry, interbreed, and you end up with the Negro part of the contribution being dominant. However, I don't think that's the strongest DNA on the planet. My belief is that the fallen angelic DNA is the most dominant DNA, the strongest DNA on the planet. So you have the Khazarians, and you've got a little bit of Edom, a little bit of Cain's DNA in them. And that would not be the vast majority, mind you, but that would be a subset, probably a small minority. I haven't tried to calculate it. I have no idea, but common sense dictates to me that you're going up there in a sea of peoples and you're just going up as a little group. You're not going to infect the whole group, I don't think. In other words, just some of the children of the Khazarians would have the DNA from Cain, who got it from Gadriel, the fallen angel, Cain's father. Approximately 1100 AD, and I know there's other dates out there by other people, but that's my best guess. I could be wrong, it could be later, could be whatever. But about 1100 AD, neighbors of the Khazarians got tired of their wicked ways, got tired of their war and how they loved it, tired of the sociopathy, if you will, and they attacked them and drove them off. And they went west. Now, they settled in the Baltic states, they settled in Poland. They just went west, and they became the Ashkenazi Jews. And if you notice, I do pronounce that word 2 different ways because, we have Ashkenazi mentioned in the book of Genesis rather early in it. It's one of those long and tedious genealogies which I have instructed you to just push your way through. They'll mean more to you later. Well, I haven't worked all those out. So, and I realize what I'm giving you is meat. I don't know if I'd call it strong meat. I think it is because most people are offended by it. Most people don't want to hear it. Most people want to worship the Jews. I think we need to put ourselves on equal footing with the Jews. And I really mean that. And I've got some brothers and sisters who will disagree with me on that. But bear with me, because in the minor prophet, I think it was Zechariah, we have a war described in which Jerusalem is attacked. And it's from what I read, half of the population is killed and half of the population is taken into captivity. Now, folks, that's all of the population by common sense, but the Bible says a residue shall be left, and then I will step in and fight as I did in the days of old. That residue, in my opinion, has got to be Israelite. Okay? And they could be Jews at the same time, all right? Get that straight. We're not being rigid here. We're being open-minded, and we're using common sense. So at some point, Yahweh steps in to save the residue of his children there in Jerusalem. Hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen. So that's kind of the big picture for you, if you will. It's a good version of it. You can look at these other videos that are up. You can read Dr. Preston James, I think is his last name. Just the name Preston stays up in my mind. I just remember that so well. He is another psychologist, military intelligence, brilliant guy. I haven't met him, don't know him, not familiar with his work, but familiar with this article. And that's linked to in that a curse upon your house, a pox upon your house, actually, is the proper word. The line comes from Shakespeare, and it's from the play Romeo and Juliet, when basically, because they won't get along and let these two kids get married, and let them have good, happy lives, they both of the houses were cursed. And it's interesting that a pox, P-O-X, was dictated, if you will, was the language used, because my fear is that these biological labs around the world are working hard as they can to weaponize smallpox. And from what I read in the Bible, it sounds like they're going to succeed, and we're going to end up with a lot of people wishing they were dead. They're suffering so much. They will pray to God that they can die just so they can stop suffering, from what I read in the Bible. You got to get these Bibles and you got to read them. And what's the correct version of the Bible? The one you read. So whatever it is that gets you to read in the big book, that library of books actually, read it. And you will find at some point you want to graduate and move on to another version or start comparing other versions. Now, my belief is that Yahshua, the Messiah, came back to earth, probably, in order to right the wrong. I believe he's here in order to correct what most people call the original sin. Well, I think he's here to correct that. And I think that a man is kind of stuck with his own stuff that he's done to himself. The lesson I've learned is that we don't get away with anything, and we pay the price for everything. And so we try to err on the side of caution. We do our best. And I think that what Yahshua said was very clear, and the example he gave us was very clear as well, that he didn't do anything without the will of his Father Yahweh. So he was doing only his Father's will. And I believe that by doing our Father's will, which is his Father, remember, he directed us to Yahweh. I think by building that relationship, that Holy Spirit within us and the Spirit of Yahweh, Creator, Father, and doing His will as best we can, that is working out our salvation. That is living our life to the best we can. And we must endure to the end to get that crown of salvation. Now, if you want to know where the order is for those who are saved and for those who are condemned, you'll have to go to the Apocrypha books. I believe it's 2 Esdras, but you can't use the King James Version because it's short about 70 verses. And in my version of the Apocrypha, it says the books of Esdras were from the Latin Vulgate, meaning the Latin intended for the vulgar people, for the average person, for the common man. And then if you get a hold of a modern English translation, like I have, there's 70 more verses, and it will tell you the order for those who pass away who are condemned. It'll list 7 bullet points, if you will. I don't have those memorized. And a chapter later, it will tell you the order for those who make it, who get the reward. And there's about 7 bullet points for it as well. One of the things that we get to do, if we make it, is we get to travel and see the reward before we take our place and take our rest until the end. That's the way I read it. You'll have to read it for yourself to find out what is going on or what's going to go on. So, and you want to know what's happened to these people that have passed. I think that'll help give you some solace as well. Well, I'm glad we had this little talk. I think I've gotten things out here without offending anyone. I need you to understand that these dichotomies, most dichotomies are false dichotomies. Quite often you're faced with 2 choices. Neither one of those is the right way. Just pray for guidance, that you default to the proper choice of the moment, because you'll have to make those decisions. Or you chart a new road. You take a new road. You chart a new course that isn't either one of these 2 false endings, if you will, that you're being offered, that are being pitted against one another, to make you. I think we can choose better paths, is what I'm getting down to. Well, my little princess is sleeping between her food dish and the water bowl. Of course, I talk about her and she gets up right away. She's very intelligent. She knew right away, instantly, you want to get water out of this water caddy, this dog water caddy, you put your paw on it and you press on it. It took Diesel. Diesel figured it out. It took him a little bit longer to figure it out. Yeah, I miss him a lot. This is an entirely different animal for sure. I do ask you to, I don't have the links just yet for the Bible sales pages. Those should be up shortly. I should have those soon. I ask you to buy the Bible because I don't want a donation. I don't intend to monetize this channel. I guess if I get desperate, I might. I'm going to have some guests. I asked Pastor Wiki a long time ago if I could put his sermons up, and he gave me permission to do that. I got 1 CD in the car, and no, I don't agree with everything. He likes numerology. I'm kind of prejudiced, if you will. I prejudge on that. I mean, I have a little difficulty with it. I mean, the way these guys do it, it seems okay, but I want to make sure it's okay. And so he's got one which really does delineate things very well. Pastor Wiki, constantly reminded me that of Revelations 2:9 and 3:9, that it's those who say they are Jews that are not that are the problem. So as I've advised my Jewish brothers and sisters, clean up your ranks or hand them over to us. Why? Because if we get killed in vast numbers like they're trying to do, if there's a nuclear war or some mass sort of genocide thing, people aren't going to give a rat's ass if it's a good Jew or a bad Jew. And so I've been trying to advocate for them. I had my Jewish mother who took good care of me and loved me a lot, and I miss her. And I had my experience living in a Jewish community, which I'll tell you about, and it wasn't totally bad. Some of it was okay. I had a sweetheart. She was Jewish. We would talk on the phone for hours. Our parents would get pissed because we tied up the phone line so much. But she would never date me. Why? Well, it wasn't acceptable, Anyway, there's also some incredible men and women out there that I don't want to name. I don't have their permission to do it, and they're alive and running around today, and they don't need the extra attention. But one of them actually called out the enemy right after they took down the Twin Towers. Right after 9/11, he pegged it, and he said so publicly, and he took the hit for that, and I admire him. Well, it turns out his mother is Jewish. So what? Okay. Got another Jewish friend who figured out what's happening with this weather stuff and with the weapons and with the time travel, and has come up with incredible, rich stuff. Brilliant. Oh, wonderfully intelligent. So what's wrong with her? Nothing. By the way, her guess, and I think that we're going to chase this one down. We believe that they use this weather technology for more than 100 years. We believe they created the Dust Bowl. They damaged the topsoil and changed the water patterns to cause that havoc. So this deception has gone on long enough. Remember what Yahshua said. Be not deceived. Hold your ground. I'm taking those as commands. I'm doing my best not to be deceived. So I embrace truth. And the Bible also says, particularly in that version most of you folks out there don't like, the NIV, says love, truth, and justice. And of course, in the footnotes of that, that political book, the NIV, Politically Correct Bible, they have an agenda. And they talk about social justice. Folks, justice is one of those things that if it's not pure, it's not justice. So when you say economic justice, social justice, racial justice, whatever kind of justice, it's not justice. Justice is justice, and that's all there is. However, to administer justice, you have to first know the truth. That's why it's always given to us in the order of truth and justice. And of course, we had that famous show a while back that went truth, justice, and the American way. Yeah. Okay, folks, I'm going a little long on this one. If you got questions and directions you want to go in, let me know. Let me know in the comments if you know me personally. Text me, call me. We aren't talking enough these days. We got to talk more. We're facing a really wicked, big evil, and these guys are fixing to toast the world as far as I can tell. And I know you say, well, they won't do that. That's crazy. Well, they're crazy, folks. They're sociopaths. They're not right in the head. They're not right in the heart. They're not right in the gut. They're not right, and they really aren't human as far as I can tell. And by the way, sociopathy, the sociopath challenges all the assumptions that I bring to bear when I practice psychology. And I think that we psychologists do not have an agreement upon those diagnoses, so they're not formal diagnoses. We just don't agree on these things because they're that convoluted and they're that difficult to agree upon. So we need to talk, and we need to have enough respect that we hear each other out, and we need to respect each other enough that we tell people what's really the truth, what was really on our minds, what we're really thinking. Folks, we live in the most massive surveillance state in history. I don't like that very much. But it means that you have to abide by the rules, laws, and regulations and all of that other crap that's out there. But you need to understand something, that when you pass away, when I pass away, you get to see a beautiful movie. You get to attend this movie, and it's your life. And it passes before your eyes. And it's in incredible detail. I mean, you see not just the trees from childhood, you see each and every leaf on that tree. Yeah, you record all that, and you're stuck with it. I'm stuck with it too. So the stuff we did that we aren't so proud of, oh boy, you get to face it again. The stuff we did that was good, well, you get to see that too. And, well, let's put it this way. We don't get away with anything in this life. So you might as well just go along with the program as best you can. Hold your ground, take your stand. Make sure the battle is worth fighting. Make sure it's worth dying for if you're going to fight the battle. If you're going to fight, make sure it's worth it. My dad always said it takes a bigger man to walk away from a fight. Well, my dad was an adult. I wasn't. Not too cool for me. But in this case, I mean, the bigger man that's in that fight over there right now is Putin. And his people refuse to let him back down because they view this, rightfully so, as an existential threat. And China views this thing as an existential threat. And my dear friends out of India, they're viewing it as an existential threat as well, because the good old US of A has threatened to go after all of them. That's nuts. And one of my spiritual teachers said there were two signs for the end of the age. And the first one was women would become absolutely merciless. Maybe that's the second one. Maybe the most important one was the increase in insanity, which is what I see today. Those people in the White House are insane. The people in the Congress are insane. Go check my blog out. Go check those Bibles out. Remember, my ancestor oversaw the production of the 1611 King James Version. Remember, Ptolemy II produced the Septuagint. He translated the Hebrew Aramaic Bible into Greek, 275 before Christ, BC. Why would he take out the name of Yahshua? That's a problem. We don't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. Did he just make an error, or did he do it wittingly? That's what I want to know. What is it that you want to know?